Typically, women prioritize preserving a warm and comforting family environment, valuing their husbands, especially when there are children involved. It is disheartening to wonder why my wife betrayed our love so easily. In April, my wife and I finally moved out of my parents' house and into our own apartment. We faced numerous renovation challenges during this transition. I was the sole provider, while my wife dedicated all her time to taking care of our 2-year-old twins. Just a couple of weeks after we settled in, we attended a tenant meeting where my wife met the woman from the first floor, Alexeyevna. Alexeyevna lived with her working daughter and son, and our little ones instantly connected and began spending time together. Our children would visit their apartment, and their grandson would join us at our place. This led to instances where our neighbor would occasionally leave her grandson, Artemchik, with us while she attended to urgent matters. She also offered to watch our twins if needed, a gesture my wife began taking advantage of. My wife would go grocery shopping and drop off the kids on the first floor with Alexeyevna, returning with treats for her grandson. I still wonder if this older lady was aware of my wife's hidden secret. Additionally, there was a guy in our building who lived above us. In our neighborhood, where apartments were quite expensive, he stood out as someone who seemed prosperous. He knew how to enjoy life, often taking a cab late at night to go partying. My wife and I even discussed him, but little did I know that he would become the source of many of my troubles. Why does he always call a cab when he has such an expensive car and a cool motorcycle? My wife once questioned. Perhaps he doesn't want to risk drunk driving on the streets, I replied. He always looks so stylish, he might have his clothes custom made, she elaborated. And he lives alone, sometimes arriving on his motorcycle in the middle of the night. I can hear him when the kids are awake. That's strange, I've never noticed, I responded. I'm always envious. It seems like he has such an exciting life, partying almost every night and living for himself, indulging in whatever he desires. Meanwhile, we can't even afford a trip to the beach because our children are demanding, and every penny goes towards repairs. It feels like we're constantly trying to save. It's even more frustrating seeing the bare walls in the hallway and outdated appliances in the kitchen. I'm thankful that you have a clear understanding of the situation, regardless of what happened. I wasn't pleased to come back to an unfinished apartment either, but I didn't want to compromise on using low-quality materials. And so came the day that will forever be etched in my memory. I returned home from work to find that neither my wife nor the kids were there. It felt similar to a long trip to the store. I recalled how much noise our 2-year-olds could make when they both wanted the same candy on a supermarket shelf. After waiting for a while, I decided to call my wife. "Hey, where are you? I've been waiting for you," I said. "I'm at the store," she replied. "I'll be right there, darling. Please grab the razor attachment. I already got rid of my old one today and forgot to stop by the store," I requested. Her response was peculiar, neither a definite yes nor no. She said she would be there in 10 minutes and hung up. I took the opportunity to boil the kettle and set the table. Then I got lost in my smartphone. Soon enough, the door swung open and my noisy bunch entered the apartment. I immediately took the grocery bag from them and started searching for the razor attachment, but it was nowhere to be found. "Give it to me, the nozzle," I requested. "Oh, I forgot," she stammered, sounding flustered. I pulled out some bread and a couple of canned goods from the bag, then discarded the rest of the food, leaving the empty bag on the windowsill. I stood there for a moment, gazing out of the window at the rain. It had been drizzling lightly for quite some time, and I myself got a bit wet on my way back from work. However, the grocery bag I had taken from my wife remained completely dry. I walked into the hallway and noticed that the kids had no traces of wet mud on their shoes, and their clothes were perfectly dry as well. The folded umbrella hung in its designated spot by the door. Even if all 3 of them had sought shelter under the umbrella, they still wouldn't have escaped getting wet. I hadn't fully grasped the implications of this situation, but I was already starting to feel a surge of excitement. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, my sons couldn't provide any answers just yet. "Did you manage to run between the raindrops?" I asked. "Run where?" Dasha replied, clearly confused. I took her hand and led her over to the window. "Between those raindrops," I said, pointing at the glass. Instantly, her face turned pale, and she started breathing heavily. I worried if her heart was giving out on her too. She remained silent for a while, and then she realized she couldn't tell a believable lie. Her hands were trembling, and her lips were barely moving, but I could still make out her words. It turned out that she had been visiting our neighbor and spending time with him on his motorcycle, and this wasn't the first time. A few times a week, as if on duty, she would go to him for at least half an hour. For an entire month, I had been leaving our children with Alexievna, while Dasha would claim she was going to the store, but in reality, she and the kids would go shopping in the morning and leave the bag in the stroller near the entrance. I was unsure of how to act, especially with the children running around, causing chaos with their toys and other belongings. Dasha sat quietly on a stool, absent-mindedly fixing her hair and tucking it behind her ears. Her face showed no signs of tears, but her trembling lips indicated inner turmoil. Feeling a sense of detachment, I dressed quickly and left the house. With nothing to lose, I decided to approach my neighbor's house. When the man answered the door, I introduced myself as Dasha's husband and awkwardly began, "I understand the need to avoid arguing and fighting." The man seemed surprised but invited me inside. He asked, "What do you want?" I hesitated, then replied, "What do you mean? What do I want? You have been seeing my wife." The man shrugged and said, "Yeah, so what?" "You're getting a divorce." Shocked, I responded, "We are? What makes you say that?" He explained, "Well, she told me she's looking for a rented apartment while she's stuck here." I exclaimed, "Look, we weren't getting divorced, or at least we weren't planning to." "We have 2 kids," he retorted. "Wait, we're not even talking about kids here." Confused, I questioned, "Have you seen her out with them?" He casually replied, "To be honest, I leave early and come back late. I don't really pay attention to who's with whom. She comes and goes, that's all." Frustrated, I asked, "And how did you manage to attract her to your place?" He explained, "What do you mean, attracted?" I had some guys from a ceiling installation agency come to my place. They had a truck with advertising. Everything was legit. I was outside saying goodbye and thanking them when a pretty girl approached and asked about the ceiling. We discussed the details. She seemed interested. Being the polite host, I offered her some wine. To my surprise, she didn't refuse and even agreed to come inside. After a couple of glasses, she started praising my life, saying it seemed intriguing and well-lived. I hugged her and she didn't resist. When I asked if she was busy, she mentioned she was getting a divorce. I'm a single man, and I thought she was single too. If I had known she was married with kids, I would have never pursued anything. I have standards when it comes to my acquaintances. So forgive me, brother, but the blame isn't on me. She came by occasionally, just for a quick encounter. I didn't know she was occupied. Trying to make sense of it all, I asked, "What's going to happen now?" He scoffed, "What do you mean? What? We're not continuing any kind of relationship." She wanted something physical and fast. I wanted the same. Where does the word relationship fit in all of this? I have no intention of changing my life. It's going just fine. I don't need any extra baggage. And besides, I'm not interested in dealing with kids. Feeling a mix of emotions, I left the conversation and slowly made my way back to our apartment. Inside, Dasha had gathered the children for dinner. As I looked at our little ones, I couldn't believe how easily everything we had built had been shattered. How could I continue to live and only see my sons occasionally? I couldn't help but resent Dasha for jeopardizing our family's happiness in pursuit of a more glamorous life. With a heavy heart, I packed my belongings and left. The future of the apartment and what I would do next remained uncertain.